Welcome back, Cosmic, Frank Cottrell Boyce. We left it when all seemed lost, but Florida might have some way of getting out of it. Let's find out. Florida plonked herself down on the bench seats and growled. I hate it when this happens. When you think you're nearly home, then the bus goes off on some, what's it called? Trajectory. No, you know, when you catch the 81 and it comes right up under the flyover and you think I'm nearly home, but then it goes under the flyover, round the island and all the way up to the 24-hour Tesco before it comes back to where you nearly were home. Oh yeah. She crossed her arms and stared out of the window. She really did look like she was sitting on the number 81. I sat down next to her and said, yeah, trajectories, don't you just hate them? How do they work? Exactly. And then she told me the old story of Apollo 13, which is this. Apollo 13 was on its way to the moon when one of its oxygen tanks blew up. The crew climbed into a tiny little module used for a kind of life raft. Then they flew right round back the moon so the moon's gravity would give them a bit of extra speed by burning the remaining engine at the right time. They broke their orbit and made it back to Earth. Obviously, that's a summary. In Florida's version, there was a lot about 13. He's really an unlucky number, and which Hollywood actors played the astronauts in the film version. Kevin Bacon and Tom Hanks, by the way. And those actors who they're married to now. While she was talking to the others, must have noticed the open hatch in the floor of the command module. One by one, they floated down into the Dandelion. The first one in was Hassan, who didn't seem to notice the moon at all. He spread himself out on the bench seat, saying, "It's much more comfortable down here." Samson too stared out of the window with his mouth open until Florida said sarcastically, "Yes, it's the moon. We've got to go right round the back of it. Can you believe it?" The moon, but no one said anything about the moon. It's a diversion, said Florida, an unscheduled diversion. But the moon, it's so far away. Not anymore, it ain't, said Florida. The real problem was Max. It wasn't the moon that bothered him, it was the Dandelion. Our mission was to decouple this model, to put it in orbit. We must do that, he said. I explained that we couldn't do that right this minute because we've got like a problem. No, release it. It means we've failed. Failure is not an option. We haven't failed. We just haven't succeeded yet. We'll press the green button when we can. But Dr. Drax said, Dr. Drax doesn't know. She knows more than you do, and I'm going to press the green button, he said. I ran after him. Weightless running isn't exactly speedy. It felt like one of those dreams when you're trying to get away from mad dogs, but that your feet sort of your feet are stuck to the floor. In the end, I just sort of toppled forward into an involuntary somersault and just caught him with my foot and sent him spinning back towards the seats. I grabbed the hatch and said, "Listen, we've got a plan, and it's a plan about..." What was it about? Florida's going to tell you what it's about. Delegation, you see. Very important with teenagers. I haven't got a plan, said Florida. Delegation and affirmation. You've got a brilliant plan, Florida, about trajectories, remember? Oh yeah, the free return trajectory, like on Apollo 13. You must remember Apollo 13. The brilliant failure, said Samson too. The lunar mission that was supposedly abandoned because of a faulty oxygen tank. I didn't notice him saying supposedly at the time, but I certainly noticed it 10 minutes later. She explained the whole thing about going around the back of the moon until we were facing the right way. And then she pointed out it was going to be easy for us. It was going to be like a ride, in fact. On Apollo 13, they had a tiny module and it was really cramped and there wasn't enough oxygen or power. We've got this whole solar-powered Dandelion. And it's got plenty of room and loads of food. So it's a picnic. The Dandelion is meant for space travel, but not re-entry. The command module is meant for re-entry, but not space travel. So we use the Dandelion to get us back to the Earth orbit. Then we all go back in the command module and use back to get back to Earth. Understand? Everyone said yes. What wasn't there to understand? But Max said, yes, I understand. And now I'm going to press the green button. What? Have you not been listening to anything we've said? Yes, but I listened to Dr. Drax more. Anyway, you can't press the button, said Hassan. It's my turn. And the two of them hurled themselves forward towards the hatch. I shouted, no one's pressing the green button, we'll all get killed. Samson too said, "Of course, we won't be killed. You don't really believe we're in space, surely?" Everybody stopped and stared at him. "Of course, we're not in space. This is a trick Dr. Drax has played on us. If we open the door, we'll be in the middle of Infinity Park, same as always. In fact, I'm going to open it now." He kicked his feet on the back of the seat and floated back towards the airlock. I was going after him when I realised I had to go after Max too. My brain tried to choose between being shot out of a spaceship and accelerating to death, or being set adrift forever in an honourable ice cream space van. In that horrible moment, I realised the real danger wasn't the infinite vacuum of space or the 6 million possible flaws in this rocket. The real danger was the children. Remember, a teenager is barely in control of anything, not even his or her own body. You are in control of everything. If your teens are reacting irrationally or disappropriately to something little, it's up to you to work out what's really upsetting them. From talk to your teen. Max was upset because he's fixated on success. To him, being halfway to the moon in an ice cream van meant we were failures. He thought that if we jetted the Dandelion, we'd be winners again. As for Samson too, he was upset because he totally flipped out, which is understandable. If I didn't have to look after the others, I'd flip out too. All he had to do was sort Max out to show him that getting ourselves home in one piece, after all the problems we'd had, was a greater achievement than doing what Dr. Drax had told us to do. So I said to him, "You know, Max, after all our problems, getting home in one piece would be an even greater achievement than just doing everything Dr. Drax said." He said, "All our problems are Hassan's fault." "No," said Hassan, "they're your fault. You pressed the wrong button, now I'm going to press the right one." "I didn't press any buttons, you did." "No, I didn't press the button, you did." I said, "I'm the daddy, so I decide who presses the buttons. And I've decided that whoever wins my game presses it when I say so." "Wins?" said Max, suddenly looking interested. "Like I said, every monster has its soft zone, and winning is Max." "What game?" Yeah, what game?" It turns out that Hassan has a board game in his pip. This game taught me to love money, and that's why I love it. The game was Monopoly. There's really no getting away with it. I suppose that's why it's called Monopoly. Low gravity Monopoly is better than the Monopoly you play around the kitchen table that lasts about a few minutes. If you've got a magnetic travel set like Hassan's, the pieces stay on the board. And if you carefully keep hold of the money, it's okay too. The problem is the dice. You can't throw dice. Well, you can throw them, but they don't actually land. They just drift off in some random directions, dipping and swooping like genetically modified sugar cubes. And they never stop spinning. The endless spinning really interested Samson too. "Fascinating," he said. "There must be some way to harness the energy of these dice spinning like this." Then, just in case I started to feel a bit relaxed, he added, "I wonder how Dr. Drax achieved this effect. It really does think that we are weightless. You could almost believe we are in space." We did try throwing the dice on a loop of sellotape that was stuck to one of the seats, but that didn't really work. And during the arguments about whether it was a 6 or not, I spotted Max heading back to the command module. I shouted, "What about rock, paper, scissors?" None of them except Florida ever played it though. That's why they were completely interested in it for about 20 minutes. The first 10 minutes were taken up discussing why paper beats rock and whether anyone would really try to use scissors to cut a rock. I had a round with Max in which he played dynamite and I played scissors. Then in the next round he played rock and I played scissors again. "Scissors wins," he said. "You played scissors last time and I destroyed them with my dynamite. How can you still have the scissors when I destroyed your scissors?" "Well, they're not destroyed forever, just really until the next round." The game was obviously too abstract for Max. He went very red and started yelling, "This is madness. One of them must be destroyed, or how can there be a winner? You can only have a winner if something is destroyed." When he said destroyed, I nearly panicked, but I didn't. I just said, "Hide and seek, anyone?" Weightless hide and seek sounds like a good idea, but it was a bigger mistake than rock, paper, scissors. Weightless hide and seek nearly killed us all. I was on. I counted very loudly to 40 when they all went and hid. For that 40 seconds, I sat on one of the window seats and looked out at the moon. Then I shouted, "Come in, ready or not?" I could actually hear Samson too moving about under one of the chairs. It would have been a great hiding place except for the weightlessness, which kept making him float up and bang his head. So I caught him and we went looking for the others. I could feel Max was watching me. I looked up and glimpsed him holding the ceiling tiles with his fingers. I decided to let him stay there so he could win, since winning was a big deal to him. I moved to the front of the Dandelion between the front seat and the window, which is where I used to sit, on the top deck of the school bus. I noticed there was a bigger than you really need space between the two front seats, and a kind of groove in the floor panels. I gave it a tug and rolled it sideways, and Florida was looking straight up at me, with this big grin on her face saying, "Come and see." I swung myself down there and Samson too followed me. Florida had found the driving club of the Dandelion. Everything was there. A driver's seat with a proper steering wheel, even wing mirrors, so that you could see the solar sails properly. The view was a bit rubbish, but the command module was still stuck on the front of it. But that only made it feel more like an ordinary car. A car stuck behind a big lorry or something. A car that I could drive. I looked at Florida and she nodded at me. She'd already read my mind. "Except you're a rubbish driver," she said. "Yeah, but it's easy up here. There's no traffic." "This is so disappointing," said Samson too. "Doesn't it feel like a bit like a spaceship? It's just made from bits of old buses." I couldn't help but sit down and try the seat. Florida said, "Be careful. We really need a manual. You never know one of these things." She waved a hand at the control panel. "Might be the ejector button or something." I looked up. There, just above the driver's seat, was one of those sunshades that you pull down, just like in a car. My dad keeps his manual, his A to Z, his insurance on the back of his, fastened with an elastic band. I pulled it down. A sightseer's map of the moon, some insurance documents, and a manual. With a troubleshooting section of Getting Started page, a diagram of the instrument panel, and it was the diagram of the instrument panel that put the fear in me. Little drawings of the buttons seemed to jump off the page and shoot towards me like death-geared spears. Buttons! The button! Max and Hassan were out of my sight. They could be dishing out 9 kinds of doom right at this second. I pushed myself into the air and shot through the hatch like Superman, banged my head on the ceiling of the minibus, somersaulted towards the command module, wriggled through the airlock, and there was Max, standing right next to the green button about to press it. I have no idea how I got from the bottom of the module to the top so quickly, but I was between him and the button faster than I could think about it, and the two of us were wrestling through the air, knocking into pipes and sleeping bags and handles and dials. Florida got herself right next to the button and shouted, "So Hassan wins, isn't that right, Dad?" This caught Max's attention. "Hassan wins?" "Well," I said, "I can't see him, can you? Does that mean he's the last one to be found? That means he's won." But you could hear a little rumble of dissatisfaction somewhere brewing inside Max. I was half expecting him to put his head back and howl like a wolf. Then, of course, "If you find him, then you're the winner." And he was off. I told Florida to stay guard the green button while I went off with Max and Samson too to find Hassan. And here's the thing. We couldn't find him. The command module, no sign. The Dandelion, no sign. The cockpit, no sign. Hassan had gone missing in space. The worst thing you can do when a team is get sucked into an argument on their terms. They have more time than you do. They can keep going. From Talk to Your Teens. Hassan is not on the rocket. Hassan is not on the rocket. Therefore, logic says he got off the rocket. Samson too, you're always telling us what logic says. Who is logic? Your imaginary friend. Why don't you say something yourself in saying logic do all the talking? He left the rocket. Well, logic says you can't leave a rocket because it's in space. Logic says if you leave the rocket, which Hassan has, then the rocket isn't in space. It's a simulation. We searched the rocket again. We didn't find him. Florida said, "You know, there was this television program once when everyone thought they were in space and it turns out they were in Essex or something." "I know. And then," said Samson too, "what about the Apollo space program? Where they managed to convince everyone they'd been to the moon?" Max said, They never went to the moon. Are you sure? Florist said, oh yeah, they went to the moon. Mr. Bean went to the moon and we've talked to him about it. Well, I hate to call anyone a liar, said Thompson too, but if they went to the moon, why did they never go back? Oh, people said they're always going back when they never do. My parents went to Spain on holiday once. They said they were going back every year, but they never did. Samson too wasn't going to let go of this though. Have you seen the picture of the American flag on the moon? It's flying, isn't it? Yeah. Well, there's no wind on the moon. So how could the flag fly? It's fake. Well, I said, maybe, just maybe, the people who all went up to the moon knew there was no wind up there. So maybe, just maybe, they put a little bit of wire on top of the flag and make it stick out. So after all, they did build the whole rockets with 6 million moving parts. So maybe, just maybe, they actually thought about putting wire in flags. Samson too didn't even blink. Logic, he says. Just open the door and see. Okay, Logic. Why not? Go on, Logic. Open the door then. And we'll see what happens with that.